All right, welcome into another edition of the Garden Report presented by CarShield, America's #1 auto protection agency. Celtics fall to the Heat in 6 games. That's it. Season over. We're done. We're turning the page. We're looking at next year. We're not going to talk about this anymore. Celtics have
never happened.
Celtics have a young core, a ton of talent. Doesn't mean they don't have needs. What are we looking at next year? What are we looking at,
John? The off season's going to be short. We're turning the page, they're turning the page. So much of the Celtics' improvement next year is going to have to be internal. There's not going to be a lot of changes here. Gordon Hayward's not going anywhere, barring something that would have made Al Horford's departure look like a given. So they're going to have all these pieces back, especially the younger guys, Grant Williams, Rob Williams. Those guys need to make big strides in an off season where there's not going to be a lot of personnel.
If that's the answer, Bobby.
Well, what are they going to do? Have you looked at the free agent list? Have you looked at the draft? There's not a miracle coming in here. It's going to be internal, and their great players are already pretty great.
You could get a Romeo type at 14.
He's got to be able to play. That's another thing that's going to be able to boost this team.
No, I mean, we talk about all the talent that this team has. We talk about, the youngsters and how they're going to, blossom
you might get 90 points from your
everyday players. That's exactly what I'm with Bobby. You give these guys their reps. You see who's ready. Is Grant Williams ready to be an everyday player? Are we going to keep seeing DMPs from him, that we saw throughout the postseason next year? Does he make a stride? Robert Williams, of course, is another one. I like these bigs. I like seeing Brad Stevens have all these guys healthy. So, with the assumption that Cantor signs on for the second year, between Cantor, Tice, I think Tice can make a stride here between now and next season. And Robert Williams, I think Brad Stevens has to find out what he has one more year with those guys before they start talking about bringing in a center.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy, your thoughts, and then I want to ask a follow up here.
Yeah, similar. I mean, I think what I want to know is what Danny Ainge thinks about this squad, because Trader Danny is not shy to shake things up, and if somebody becomes available that he thinks fills a need for the Celtics, well, he's got a lot of very desirable pieces on this team. If he thinks that this current team doesn't have enough to get over the top, he's looking ahead to what the Heat are doing or what the Bucks could do or what, whatever, name any team. The Lakers, if your ambitions are NBA Finals champion, you say, well, wait a second, do we have enough to compete with these teams? So I have no idea. I'm just throwing it out there that Danny Ainge could have completely different thoughts than we do. Otherwise, I mean, listen, if you're the Celtics, you're in a good position because the best players on your team are coming back. They're young for the most part, and they're improving. So if you can improve the way some of these guys improved this year, Tatum and Brown, for example, then you're going into the next season better than you were theoretically.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to slice this. And again, I agree that most, like what Bobby said initially, most of the changes have to be not changes. Most of the
improvement
growth and improvement has to come from within. But the thing is, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys want Grant Williams to be when he grows up?
It's not Grant. It's Rob.
Rob's
got to be able to.
I agree with Rob too. But
Bobby. He's like, nah, Grant's whack.
Grant's going to do what he does for the entirety of his career, probably. And he had a pretty good rookie year. We're just bummed they didn't get a different guy.
Grant Williams is already a 7-year veteran, which is to say, that's kind of who he is.
He's already a role player.
Right.
He shot 70% from three in the playoffs.
It's just about how much is he going to progress in one off season.
I don't see it. I agree. It's Rob and maybe a miracle from Romeo. Maybe a year. And again, it's not
Romeo being able to play. Period would have helped in this game specifically.
Play a few games in a row without getting hurt would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Right. Yeah, that would be ideal. I mean, this guy's been hurt since he played college.
For 2 years.
He was hurt in college. He was drafted hurt.
We got to think.
They call me Mr. Glass.
I think we forget that when we forget opening night and the beginning of the season, but we forget last offseason where they lost the core of last year's team. They drafted a ton of 19 and 20-year-olds, and we're thinking, all right, this is going to be like a mini turnover. Then you get Kemba, and all of a sudden there's expectations and everything else. So the team was half built to contend and half built to be good in 2023, 24. So that might have to be something you reckon with going forward in terms of moves, is making the roster a little bit more win-now mode, if you can even get value for any of those guys.
If you can, but I don't see how you do that without getting rid of a core piece. And so then it comes down to, who is that? Really, it seems like the one that would hurt would be like a Jaylen, which you're not going to do. And then the only other possibility is really Marcus at that point.
Yeah, you can't do Hayward because of the option.
And you can't really do Hayward. I don't think Kemba.
Right.
So really, you're talking about
Tatum, obviously.
Marcus. And certainly it's not Tatum, and certainly it's not Jaylen. So look, we have the improvements from within from some of the lesser players, but ultimately I think the success of this team is going to come down to the ascension of their stars to that next level. And we talked about this a little on the postgame show. Tatum and Brown took leaps before the year and during the year. It's rare to see players take 2 leaps in a year, and they both did. It felt like could they do it
1 year?
In 1 year? I feel like
it was, but it was like almost like 2 years. It kind of felt
right.
like
It was.
But they took the leap in your
But that's the thing. It's the short off season. Do these guys have another level to hit, or are they going to come back with the same exact guys? Because it's going to be like in 15 minutes. They got to report for camp. Someone set Rob Williams' alarm for him. Okay, he's got to wake up for the first training camp practice now.
Oh no, yeah.
No, we'll feel like that.
I think they do. I think both of them do, but I think they have to do it as a cohesive unit, though. That's the difference. And I think these 2 guys need to be the top 2 guys in terms of getting their touches and attempts. But only Kemba Walker can change that. We talked about that a little bit also in the postgame show. I think Kemba Walker sort of has to take a step aside here and let these 2 guys lead the team. Now, Kemba Walker may be reluctant to do that, thinking that maybe he thinks he has at least another year where he could be one of the top guys. But maybe that's a conversation that they have to sort themselves out and see what's better for the team moving forward. I think that's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Josue, because we talked about this on postgame. We need Jaylen to take on that number 2 spot, and that's going to involve more ball time, more passing responsibility, just roles that will be more conducive to getting him shots on a consistent basis. Because right now he relies on other guys setting him up. It's the opposite for Kemba. He's never an off-ball guy. They tried it a few times this year. It didn't go well. If he's going to be his most effective, he needs to be on the ball. So there's a contrast there. They need to get more time for Brown, but less ball time for Kemba probably gets less from Kemba. So you talk about that collective need for improvement. It's on those 2 guys to come to some sort of reconciliation there.
Yeah, and Jimmy, did you have something to add there?
No, I mean, I agree with both these guys. I think that we're all kind of saying the same things. Is the Jaylen and Tatum are the future. They're the present and the future of this team, and I think anybody around the organization knows that. I mean, Danny Ainge, went after Tatum. We all know how that draft went and how much he was targeting Tatum, and he's a big fan of Brown, and Brown has I think proved a lot of people wrong. I think there were a lot of people who weren't super high on that pick.
Phenomenal season, yeah.
I mean, Bubble Brown really did take it to. I think even more than anyone, Bubble Brown really took it to that next level. And I do think that
that's his new nickname,
Bubble Brown. Bubble Brown himself. I do think that there's more room for growth for both those players. I think Brown hasn't even tapped into his leadership potential on this team. He's not
You're 100% right.
Even if he's not the most talented player on the team, I think that he has more captain qualities and more leadership qualities, and I think he will end up with that role in time.
Yeah, and that's
a good point. Because look what he did in the bubble. Not to cut you off, John. I just want to throw this in real quick. Between the boycott with the Bucks and how vocal he was in that, and a room that involved LeBron James, I think spoke volumes. And I also think it gives confidence for himself to be more vocal with his own team when he was doing it in front of the entire league, so to speak. Or at least the Players Association.
Yeah, and ducking all those thrown chairs from Marcus Smart,
Yeah.
No, I mean, the way he was painted out,
exactly, right.
He pressed some accountability on Smart.
But he's kind of no, F you, right. You're right.
No, Marcus, I am not on that bullshit. No,
he has the makings. Yeah, exactly. He has the makings of that. He's got to take that to the next level. I'm going to ask the question Bobby hates talking about it right after this.
Maybe I should opt out of this one like Jimmy.
You might want to opt out of the rest of the segment, Bobby. But first, tell everybody at home the segment is presented by CarShield, America's #1 auto protection agency. Call 800-CAR-6000, mention the code BEAT, or visit carshield.com. Use the code BEAT to save 10%.